in my life, I'm a theater artist. I make autobiographical works for myself because I needed to find my voice in the American theater. Then I get a call, and it's from the California Arts Council asking me if I would go into the jails to teach aerobics to incarcerated women. Aerobics? What does that have to do with changing, saving the lives of incarcerated women? I decided I was going to talk to the administration about creating a theater project, a way that these women could talk. They could tell their stories. And I met Sean the morning of the meeting, and I told her about the whole idea of creating a theater of dreams and examining desire and death and longing with incarcerated women.
And one of the purposes of the work of the Medea Project was to break the cycle of recidivism, that there were other options for you available.
You have to speak your truth.
Yes.
And you have to tell your truth. And you have to be able to sit in your own fire. And you have to be able to sit in other people's fire.
By the end of our shows, we have made a convincing enough case with music, with rap, with spoken word, and with regular scripts. Let them tell their story in such a way that people finally understand that there's a human being here.
This program was designed so that the non-actor persons, the activist, the scientist, the educator could actually experience art making in a very responsible way.
I was surprised. I was one of the only theater people in that class. There are people from the African American department, people from the arts department, from journalism, all walks of life.
There was a joyousness about the mix, the melange coming together that grew out of unexpected incidents and writings and ideas.
We'd all just let these things go and feel completely comfortable saying whatever we wanted to in front of other people. Some people told some very dark, very personal things, and that inspired some of the rest of us to write about it.
It kind of punched reality in a bit firmer, I think, to a lot of the students who haven't been exposed to some really compromising places that other people have been in.
So there was usually some sort of divulging of information and then crying, but then we would stage it and it would become a really powerful piece.
It's got to push from the bottom of your belly. Use your body as a column of sound. Push off the floor with sound. Because it was so interdisciplinary with so many different schools of thought and schools of education, the movement, the lifting, the carrying, for me was creating a safe space for all of us to crash against each other. So in my theater class, you're going to be touched, you're going to be lifted, you're going to have to trust that this person will not drop you.
It was wonderful to have those guests and that they know Rhodessa and know how she works, so they kind of gave us a flavor of what she was trying to get from us. They would come into the class and talk about the work that they had done with Rhodessa previously, but along the lines of what I've been saying, they would empower us even more to tell a story that we wouldn't have wanted to share. Faye was just wonderful at pushing people in the kindest way to get really deep stuff out of them.
Idris was a fantastic element to be added to our soup of people. He brought in a lot of really good energy and all of the music, and he brought ritual into the process. And so for him to bring in those elements helped everything have the weight that we intended it to have.
As we worked, we touched on everything. We touched on identity. We touched on family. We touched on sexual identity. We touched on food. We touched on today versus yesterday versus tomorrow. What was old is new again. Polly Garrett talks about what is it to be a man. And I think that's a very old conversation.
I wish I could tell.
I wish my body was illuminated by light so I could fight the fright that is behind the dark of my eyes.
What was new about it was that he could express it through his ability and his work as a slam poet, which I thought was brilliant.
Because I was told that my presence had the power to make men rise above me. My body was a curse, therefore did not belong to me.
I thought Keegan Carter and Aisha Tripp really nailed something about the black female body with that dance number in the middle, the club.
I've never done anything that I've written before. I'm a director, so I do other people's work. So this was a way to help me find my voice.
Running, searching, I hear the warriors screaming, running, searching, running, searching, I don't know the words.
It was an incredible experience. I've never been quite in a trance like that like I have that night. I've done acting for a long time, but never felt that way, so it was really cool.
It was fun to see it all come together on stage, even though it wasn't a typical performance. That this wasn't going to be your standard play, that this wasn't your standard class, this wasn't your standard mode of expression. So it definitely always kept us on our toes, even till when we were bowing.